Welcome to Season 4 of FBC Seminole's The Table podcast. This season is called Tell a Good Story. Storytelling is a natural part of human life, and we all do it in one way or another. But the most important story any of us tell is the one we tell ourselves. This series will help you train your inner narrator to align the dialogue in your head with the truth of God's story and His Word. Come break through the negative stories of our modern world and infuse the peace, patience, joy, and gratitude of life in Christ back into your own story. So pull up a seat and join us at the table.
All right, we are back at the table. Welcome back for another round. It's the third session with this group, sixth session now in our series here of Tell a Good Story. And hey, what has this series meant to you so far?
It's been really good, just challenging me and convicting me of some stuff that I need to work on.
Same, but it's exciting. Like I have
Cool.
a new challenge in front of me.
Yep.
And man, my negative self-talk roots in my brain are deep, and so I've got a lot of work to do. But like in a year from now, like if
That's a
I
good
start
perspective.
in a year from now, will I still be like this? Because I can't keep going like this.
Yep.
So I'm excited.
Cool.
Well,
Cool.
that's good. I think a lot of people will be in the same exact boat as you are, that they're at a place they don't want to be. I think back to our first. This will be our session 4, right? Where we practiced gratitude.
Oh yeah.
That was really impactful for me, and just like I felt. And I came in, like I think I said in that episode, I came in feeling good. We just had a really great weekend with the kids, and we had Disciple Now, but it just went to a different level, and I felt it was very emotional for me.
Yeah.
Just spending time being grateful in all things, in all circumstances, is what the scripture I think you quoted said.
Absolutely.
And so that meant a lot. And so I'm thinking, like tomorrow and the next day, what will my day look like if I start it that way? Like how much different. And then I think about our kids. I think about our friends or people listening that are really struggling. What would your tomorrow look like if you started it with 5 minutes of gratitude? And not, and I love this idea of that we're not talking about just positive thinking. I love this, that it's more hopeful thinking.
That's right.
That's really, I hope people latch on to that, because I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of truth in that. And so not just gratitude, like this hippie whatever. I'm not going to go into grounding and whatever, but this idea.
Well, just so you know, we did ground ourselves in that gratitude meditation. That was the first. Sorry, you were a little hippie.
Ah, dang
believe
it!
in grounding.
It was.
Crunchy
It was a little crunchy, wasn't it?
or scrunchy is.
Oh,
Scrunchy.
Yeah, he calls it scrunchy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I think it's just pretty cool. Like not this idea of gratitude for being thankful for, I'm not trying to be, what am I, I don't know if you might understand what I'm trying to get at. Not like this mystical.
right. Yeah, this
type.
is not mystical's a good word.
Like Zen. It's not, we're not talking about that sort of stuff, centering yourself. We're talking about, meditating on who God has created you to be, and the goodness the goodness of what He has been in your life, even in hard circumstances. And I think you said God's not in the business of changing our circumstances. He changes
Sometimes He does a miracle and He changes our circumstances.
But more often He changes us in the midst of those.
That's right.
So it's a lot of good stuff. I hope people are really tuning into this.
I love what you said. Paul says it this way in Romans 5. He says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. And that's where he says it's all going. He said it produces in us hope. And so it's almost like for Paul, that sign of maturity in the way we handle our minds is, are we full of hope? And so, when we talk about this positive, it is positive thinking. We do want to think positive, but like you said, it's about being hopeful. It's about being transformed into someone who is full of hope. right? Which is a very positive thing, but it's so much more than just being positive. It's being hopeful. So I'd like to share just briefly kind of what this series has meant to me. And I've got kind of a long track record with this. I've had a lot of practice. And the reason I've had a lot of practice is because I needed a lot of practice. And I know maybe in our very first episode I shared just a little bit about that. But this really came full circle for me as I kind of got into the industry that I work in, which is an extremely performance-based industry where you're constantly being not just challenged and not just graded or judged, but in a way that is very, very public, right? Constantly being evaluated by people who don't know you, who don't see the work that you put in. They just get to show up and for 32 minutes judge, right? Who you oftentimes who you are, and oftentimes it gets really, really personal. I realized several years ago how much of who I was built on wanting to impress other people, and how much of my own life was that I wasn't telling my own story. It wasn't my story. It was the story that the world was wanting me to tell, so that I could try and fit in and have that relationship, have that community experience, and be connected to people. And I wanted to be impressive. I think at our heart, we all, at some point, at some degree, we want to be recognized. Right? Sure. We want to be, but for me, it had come to a point where it was very unhealthy. And so I just started to do the thing that I do, which is get really, really nerdy about a topic that I'm interested in. And I read, normally when I get interested, I read about a dozen books, and I watch every video on YouTube that exists on the topic, and I listen to all of the podcasts, and I just try to, And so I did a deep dive into like psychology, and that led me to this field of, in psychology, it's called positive psychology. And then, my faith kind of helps me line that up with this. Yeah. With this hope, and it's transformed the way that I live. It began as a way for me to deal with my job, because I love my job, but there are parts of my job that are really hard to deal with. And so it began for me as a way to deal with the hard parts of my job, so I could keep doing my job that I love and that I feel like I'm called to. It became a way of living. It changed my marriage. It changed my relationship to my family. It changed my house. It changed, how good I sleep at night. It changed, the way that I work in the classroom in my job, and the way that I react to students. It's changed everything for me. And I realized, this is who God wanted me to be the whole time. It was right here. And maybe he needed me to feel that pressure before I finally surrendered to that pull. And it's here it is. God's been saying it the whole time, and maybe we all kind of need those slaps in the face from time to time to move us there. But today I want to shift our focus a little bit to, we can be hopeful and we can talk positive, but I love what you started us with there, Sean. It doesn't change the fact that sometimes things in life just stink. Sometimes people stink. Sometimes circumstances are no good. Sometimes people get sick. Sometimes you lose your job. Sometimes people hurt you. There are things in life that just aren't good. So what about then? And that's what I want us to focus on in this session here, is what about those moments, and how do we tell a good story even when things don't go our way?
That's good.
And so I want to start off with a verse from James chapter 1, and this is one of those verses that people hear all the time, but Carolyn, if you don't mind, just read it kind of slow for us, and I want everybody just try to hold on to every single word of this verse and try to listen to it as if you've never heard it before. Okay? Try to internalize it. All right, go ahead.
Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance.
Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because there's something good in it, right? Because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. It's one of those super quoted verses, right? And rarely followed, right? How good are you at considering it pure joy when you face those stinky life moments? SLM's stinky life moments. I just made that up.
Oh man, I like it. Hashtag SLM.
Yeah.
It depends on the duration of the stinky moment for me.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I can be like, okay. And then as it goes along, I just get worn down until I become someone who I don't like. Until I'm thinking things I don't like to think about.
Yeah.
So the duration is a factor for me.
I was actually going to kind of say the opposite.
Okay.
I think a lot of times for me, at the beginning, I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
Are we really doing this?
Uh-huh.
And then I kind of can pull myself back and shift my focus and go, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
And just
so
buckle
it gets
up
better
for the long haul.
Yeah.
But, you know, knowing that
Yeah.
there's got to be something God's trying to teach me.
Okay. All right.
So.
Cool. What do you think, Sean? How are you at?
Nothing bothers Sean.
But
He's trying not to brag right now, but you're not bragging. Like,
but I think I like being comfortable. I don't like the boat to be rocked, and I like it. So I like it when things are easy. And so if it's considering it joy when you face trials and temptations and various things, right? That means it's uncomfortable, and that means it's hard, and it means it's out of the norm. And so pure joy, I mean, that's really hard to do. I mean, I think we can in the middle, or if it's at the beginning where it's easier for you, if it's at the end when it's easier for you. I mean, it's still hard in that moment to think joyfully about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess the thing is, can we say, okay, I know that God works for the good of those who love Him, and so ultimately there is a purpose. Ultimately, God will show me something in that. But considering it pure joy, like that's a lot.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't know. So I don't know what else to say about that.
Okay.
It's just, I feel like it'd be really hard.
I think that a huge component to telling a good story is how we explain our lives' challenges to ourselves.
Okay.
How we interpret whenever we're faced with that stinky situation, when we're faced with that challenge, we're faced with that obstacle. What do we tell ourselves about it, right? And that is such a huge part of telling a good story. And this and our next episode are going to focus on first those outside challenges that come in and face us. That's what we're going to focus on this time. And then the next episode, the times when we fail, personally.
Good.
And that's what we're going to try to work through. But just for a moment, I want you to imagine. I'm going to try to hit multiple generations here. You ready? A video game where the levels got increasingly easier. So as you level up, as you move forward in the game, the levels get easier. Just imagine for a second. Okay? Imagine a sports tournament, maybe the NFL playoffs, basketball tournament, volleyball, a sports tournament where the loser advanced. Or a school, maybe a K-12 or even a university, okay, where the coursework got more basic as you moved on. Think about that for a moment. Okay? What's the result here? What would be, are those worth anything? What would a degree be like from that school that as you moved forward, the coursework got easier and easier, less and less challenging? What would that degree be worth?
It wouldn't mean anything.
Why not?
Because anybody could do it. It'd be easy.
Yeah, it's like there's no point in that, right? It's like getting your degree from Texas Tech.
Come on now.
Stop it.
Whatever.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just said because y'all know what that's like, right? It's like, oh yeah, it doesn't really count.
I can edit that out later.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I guess I'm the only non-tech person in the room today, huh? Did you get your degree from Texas back there, Jackson?
Oh, no.
Oh, you just are a Texas fan. I'm a Texas fan too. But my degree came from Harvard on the Plains, also known as West Texas A&M University. But we don't have time to go into that too much. But the degree from a school where the work gets easier and easier, nobody does that. That wouldn't mean anything.
Right.
Yeah.
How about a video game where every level you move forward, it gets easier?
I wouldn't play.
It would be a boring game,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Sure.
It would be
One level
stupid.
and
Why would you? Yeah, why would you play that game? Or who would watch the playoffs where the loser moved forward?
Nobody.
There's no point in even playing the tournament if the loser gets to move on, right? Now, that might be a tricky one because I'm not saying we all need to compete against each other in our faith. But what I am saying is, now imagine this one. A life with no difficulty, challenge, or obstacle. That one doesn't seem as crazy, does it? When we imagine a video game where the levels get easier and easier, it's like, oh, that's a boring game. But when we say, imagine a life free of challenges, free of obstacles, I think my first reaction is, right? So this is the quote I have. The greatest lie of our culture is that life should be free from challenge or difficulty. The greatest lie that our culture has convinced us of is that that's the life we want.
Yeah.
The life with no challenge, the life with no discomfort, the life with no obstacle. Because I'm here to argue today that a life without obstacles and a life without challenges is no different than a video game that levels get easier and easier. It's no different than a sports tournament where the loser moves on.
Yeah.
And I think that we can so reduce the challenge and difficulty level of our lives that we can almost ease our lives into meaninglessness and remove the purpose from our lives by removing the challenge from our lives. We're going somewhere with all of this. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's what our culture wants, and like sometimes that's what we want.
Mm-hmm.
But man, if that's the way it really was, then my walk with the Lord wouldn't be as sweet because I would never have to depend on Him.
Mm-hmm.
I would never need Him.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad when you think about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
When there's no growth.
Yeah.
There's no growth from the mountaintop. We can't stay there forever. The growth comes in the valley when it's hard. And so in that verse, it said, consider it pure joy. What was after that? I don't know what. Is it if?
Whenever, not if.
Right.
When you face.
So God isn't saying, it's possible that you could face trials and various hard times.
Yeah.
It's not saying maybe.
It might happen.
It's going to happen.
Right.
When?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, think about it like this. Like, why, when you play a video game, why do the levels get harder as you go?
So you'll get better.
It's like, if you want to get to the next level, you got to do something you've never done before.
Yeah.
How come in the NFL playoffs, the winner moves on to go to the Super Bowl?
They earned it. They put in the work.
Yeah. The higher you climb, the better the team you have to beat.
Right.
And whoever beats the better team gets to go on to try the next. And you're trying to see who can beat the best team, right? Like you're constantly climbing upwards, right? How come when you go to school, why does the coursework from kindergarten to the 12th grade, why does it get a little more challenging every year? Why is that?
So you'll grow.
You're growing, yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you've faced that challenge and you've mastered that challenge. There's a new challenge for you. And the only reason we put you through that first challenge was so you'd be ready for the next one. But really, that challenge is only getting you ready for the next one. And that challenge is getting you, and you start kindergarten knowing that the goal is to graduate as a senior in high school 13 years later. But if you started introducing graduation ideas to kindergartners, it would fail miserably. So it's going to take us 13 years to get you there, and 13 unique sets of challenges to get you to the level where you're a high school graduate. But we're going to start you with these really basic challenges when you first start out, because it's what you're ready for, because you've never done the other stuff yet, right? And you master those challenges and you get to unlock the next level of challenges, right? I think life kind of works like that. I think it can if we'll allow it to, right? So here's another quote that I had written down here. It says, "Successful people are not successful because of a lack of obstacles, but because of their ability to overcome them." Do you think that our culture, the society, the world we live in, do you think it champions overcoming obstacles, or do you think it's more focused on trying to remove obstacles?
Removing.
Why do you say that?
Like, I'm specifically like parenting. Let's kick all the obstacles out of the way for our kids before they ever get there, so that we can like carve out a smooth path for them
to ensure that they're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Is that really success? You know what I mean? Is that really success? Did they actually overcome something, right, and win something?
So then they get out to the real world, and holy moly,
yeah,
it's like a
don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do. They don't have the tools. They don't have the tools.
Yeah.
They've never had to do X, Y, and Z.
You think that possibly the challenges in your life could be giving you tools to unlock your next level?
That's good.
Well, I hadn't thought about it like that before.
I can see in the past where that's been the case. Not gonna lie, I don't want to get to a next level. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Some of the stuff that I've gone through, I'm like,
Same.
wow.
Yeah. Like you didn't want to have to learn that
No,
lesson.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people today have been blessed because of that lesson that you learned. What do you think?
I've seen it. I remember vividly a time when I saw it. And it was like a light bulb moment of going, wow, that's why. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't have to do all the stuff that led up to getting to that moment.
Sure.
But
Sure.
when you get there and you have those.
And you have the tool now, and you get to use the tool to make a difference.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you're at a new level of being like you've leveled up as a person, if we can use that term. Keep it on the video game terms.
In the
Go ahead.
moment, you don't realize. I don't realize that in the moment. I can look back and see that. I can see, oh, okay, that's why that happened, and like I can see. But in the moment, I have a harder time.
Do you think that if we could train the voice in our head to interpret those challenges in the moment as opportunities to grow, do you think it would help us move past them a little bit quicker? Get more out of them?
I think so.
It's like there's a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor. You would talk about positive thinking. You need to go read that book. But he talks about how his greatest fear in life is that he would not be worthy of his suffering. He wouldn't suffer well. That the suffering that he went through, he hopes is worth it. Like, I don't want to suffer and not be someone different because of it. I'm not going to just endure suffering, but I'm going to get something out of it. And his greatest fear was that he would suffer and not be transformed by it, or not level up because of it, and that his suffering would be meaningless. And I mean, if you can survive the Holocaust through concentration camps and have that attitude, then I don't know of anybody's circumstances right now listening to this podcast who can compare to that, right? You can choose to see obstacles as punishment to endure, or a step stool to climb on so you can reach the next level. And it's just a matter of what you choose to label it, what you choose to focus on, what you choose to call it. Are you calling that challenge an obstacle, a punishment, or are you calling it an opportunity? Well, how are you looking at it, right? How are you looking at it? And I think that James wants us to see it as an opportunity, because it's exactly what he says, right? Why do we want to consider it joy? Because what does it do for us right there in James 1?
Produces perseverance.
It's going to produce something in us, right? It's going to make our faith stronger. Like you said, it's going to make our walk with God better. It's going to be sweeter. So whenever you start to go into that trial, recognize that this could be a great opportunity for me. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the challenge all of a sudden is good, but it doesn't have to be good to be true, right? It might still stink, but it could still be an opportunity for you. As we move forward in the book of James, he's going to say that when you're tempted, you should not say, God is tempting me, for God does not tempt. I also think it's important here to point out that not every challenge that comes into your life is from God, who is like, you didn't get a flat tire because God right? It's like okay, maybe God didn't cause that flat tire to happen. Maybe you haven't gotten your tires rotated in 45,000 miles, and that one tire wore out faster than the other. Like that one was on you. You know, right? It's like, okay, but could that flat tire be an opportunity for you? Could be an opportunity to practice patience. Could be a chance for you to just slow down in that moment. It could be a chance for you to practice not getting mad at something that happens that's outside of your control. Or it could be an opportunity for you to be a problem solver, develop your problem solving skills. It doesn't have to be specifically a challenge from God for it to still bless you. But God can cause all things to work for good of those that love him and are called according to his purpose.
It could be saving you from a wreck that's down the road that's about to happen.
Could be. Yeah. It could be from God in saving your life.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it could be.
So I was just thinking about joy versus happiness. Joy versus...
That's right.
There's a difference. That happiness is more influenced by our circumstances, and joy is not. Like joy isn't determined by your circumstances, and so maybe that's kind of where I'm landing on that. Like, because I asked the question, how can we consider that? How can we have joy in those moments? Well, the point is, happiness comes from what we experience or what's around us, versus joy comes from what's inside us, or maybe what's already what's already been built up in us. And so maybe that's how I'm answering that in my own head, because it depends on God and not on me, or not on what's around me.
Right.
That's how you experience joy.
And when you have that attitude or that mindset, and you see a bigger picture, right? when you can see a bigger picture of, hey, God is at work in the whole world, and I'm just one small little piece of his big plan to make this world good again, then all of a sudden that obstacle is way smaller than when you're just zoomed in and you're the only person who exists.
Yeah.
When when you have that main character syndrome and you're suffering from thinking you're the only person in the world, and I'm talking to myself as I talk about that, right? All of a sudden your problems are huge, but when you can zoom out and have that God perspective, you can say, man, I'm just a small piece in this story, and this is my part to play right now. And you can have joy that comes not from you and your circumstances, I think, like you're saying. Now your joy comes from God and being a part of the story that he's telling, right? So, we're all parents and we've got kids of various ages, but do you want your kids to live a life with no obstacles?
I don't.
Why not?
Because what would they learn? How would they grow? I've known kids who were raised and pretty much had everything laid out for them. And then, then like you said, when they get out in the real world or they're on their own and life hits them right in the face, they have no tools. They have no understanding of how to navigate that.
Yeah.
And so I think our kids should be allowed to fail, and we struggle with that now. We have an adult child he's married and he's in grad school, and like they're on their own. We help when we can, but really they're doing their thing. And there's been moments where we have to sit back as parents and we have to let them figure it out. We can't, as much as we might want to intercede or save the day or whatever, like that's not going to help them in the long run. And so we've had to let them sort of flounder a little bit, and they're better because of it, honestly.
Yeah.
And they're on the other side of a lot of those things. But I think, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, same. They would never learn to walk. Like if you didn't let them.
If they never fell down.
They just wouldn't, right? It's from when they're babies.
Y'all seen that movie WALL-E? That Disney movie WALL-E? Where all the people are floating around in outer space in those and their bones have all shrunk and they're all totally overweight and they can't eat, they can't even feed themselves anymore because it's all work and they don't want to do work or whatever.
Yeah.
That's just what I have pictured when you say that. Eventually a life free from obstacle leads to, that's a super extreme example, but that's where that leads,
true.
Right? That's where that leads.
Yeah.
I think I've shared this. I don't know if I've shared it on the podcast before, but when I pray for my boys, my prayer oftentimes to God is, God, I pray that you would give them the same protection you gave Job. Just don't take their lives. Let them live. But you, whatever else you need to do to them to teach them what they need to be, then do it. But just please don't, please let me have them. Wow. But other than that, it's for you. And because I know as I read like the book of Job and I see the suffering he goes through, but then read the end of the story and he says, this is what he says, God, I heard about you, but now my eyes have seen you. And it's only through the suffering that he goes through that he comes to that point. And how much better is he in chapter 40 than he was in chapter 1? Even though he was pretty good in chapter 1, he's so much better in chapter 40. And I'm like, there's only one way to get there. Yeah. Right? So just keep them alive, but you throw whatever you got to throw at them, because I know it's going to be good. And it's going to be an opportunity, for them. Do we take that same attitude with us, though? We can want that for our kids, but then what happens when that obstacle comes up for me?
We just start whining.
Oh, we complain about it, right? Why, God? Or like, you have that moment, right? And if it's easy for us to see for other people, why is it so hard for us to see for ourselves?
I think for me, I can see it for myself. Watching a child struggle for a long time, it's hard to want them to go through those obstacles, but I can see the growth and the changes and things like that. And I know that she's learning, she's figuring things out. God is becoming real to her in ways that I couldn't tell her. She has to see it for herself.
Yeah.
And so part of me is thankful for that, of course, but part of me goes, okay, now that's enough, take it away and do what you need to do to me.
Yeah.
But that's enough, because it's hard to watch your kids struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. So whenever, as I think back into the Bible, I think about like in the Old Testament, and God saves Israel, he rescues them from slavery. And there's a difference between challenge and obstacles and slavery, right? Not the same thing.
Yeah.
God rescues people from slavery. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, you're in a dangerous situation, or you know, like, we're not saying, oh yeah, consider it joy.
That's good.
Okay, that's not what we're talking about here, right? We're not talking about the slaveries and the pharaohs of the world. God wants to do away with those people and destroy that, right? We are talking about the desert that they go through for the next 40 years. And why does God lead them through the desert for 40 years? Why does he take them there? Well, he's got to teach them some lessons that they don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes God brings us to the desert to teach us lessons that we would not have signed up to learn ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
That he needs us to know. He needs it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's going to matter in the future. It's going to matter for us. It's going to matter for others. It's going to matter for our world.
Yeah.
And these challenges are opportunities. They're opportunities to see God in a new way, and they're opportunities for us to grow and develop our skill set, and become better leaders, or become better communicators, or they're opportunities for us to have more patience or more perseverance. And they could all be growing us and changing us and shaping us to be better, right? And to be more effective in our ministry. And even God uses these throughout the whole Bible to teach us and to lead us, right? And to grow us, right? And that's, I think, what James is talking about when he says, consider it pure joy when you face these trials, because we know that they can be good for us if we'll let them be.
Yeah.
So in my Bible, the day that we found out we were moving here, this was my daily Bible reading that day.
Yeah.
And at the time, that was a trial for us. I didn't want to leave Perryton. We'd been there for 15 years. We came
Bless your heart.
straight out of college.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
And we
Right.
loved it.
Sure.
That's where we
Sure.
raised our kids. And we had our friends, and it was comfortable, and all of those things.
Yep,
and
yep.
we had some amazing times at our church there. But the last few years had been a real struggle, just with different things going on there. And we had kind of wondered, do we need to do something else? What do we do? But we stuck it out because we felt like that's what God was asking us to do. But I still didn't want to leave because that was comfortable.
Yeah.
And so that was a very big trial. And, God just told me, like, do you trust me? Do you trust that I have your best interest at heart here? And so I had to say, I do, but I don't know what that looks like. And man, the blessings that he's given us since we've been here, the growth that we've had, our kids have had, our families had, it's been something I never could have even imagined. So the trials can be really special.
We all are going to face these outside problems, these times in our life that stink. The coworker at work who's just trying to who's bitter, or the bad news of a family member's health, or we all have these things, right, that come up all the time in our lives. And I'm not saying we have to ignore it. And I'm also not saying that we have to just give that person a pat on the back and say, there, let's look on the bright side. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, right, like, that's not going to make the cancer go away. It's not, right? What I am saying is, could you reframe the way you're speaking to yourself about that challenge and say, God can use this to make me better. And I'm going to suffer. I'm going to be worthy of my suffering right here. And I'm going to embrace this challenge. Even though it's not good and it doesn't feel good, I'm going to embrace this as an opportunity for me to grow, for me to climb to a new level. And I'm going to trust that when I get there, God's going to open up even more opportunities for me to minister and to be used for Him and used for His kingdom. And even though this isn't good, and this might not even be from God, God will use it for good.
That's good.
Yeah.
God will use it for good if I will embrace it. That's my last little quote here, is that life can happen to you or life can happen for you. It's up to you to decide. It's up to you to decide. And if we'll just embrace it, God can use it and will use it for good. We got to embrace it.
Thanks for listening to FBC Seminoles, The Table Podcast. A new episode will be released each Monday. We invite you to pull up a chair and join our table each week as we dig into God's Word together. We would love for you to join one of our Connect groups that meets throughout the week and worship with us on Sunday mornings at 9 or 10:30. If you'd like more information, you can call our church office at 432-758-3291 or visit our website at fbcseminole.org.